This video is going to introduce you to word styles, and before we start using styles it's worth again that we just insert some random text. So we'll do that for the moment. And there we've got some random paragraphs of text. Now you'll all be familiar with creating a heading for this. If we type in here heading 1 and then hit return, there's our heading 1. And if you want to make that bold or you want to make that heading stand out, what nearly everyone does is they highlight it, they go up to the panel up here, they make it bold, they maybe make the heading a little bit bigger, and they might change the font of the heading just to make it look different. But that's the way we all tend to do things. And that's all well and good on short documents, maybe a page, 2, 3 or 4, 5 pages long. But it becomes very problematic if we've got a document that may be 200 pages long, or for many of you doing a dissertation, the document might end up being 60, 70 pages long, and you suddenly realise that your headings are the wrong size and they're the wrong font to meet the university standard, and you would have to go through every single page, highlight every single heading and change it. And that's a big job, and also it's not a very good productive use of anyone's time in industry. So to get over this, Microsoft introduced word styles, and in simplistic terms what a style sits in a document that is separate to the document that you're working on at the moment. And although you can't see it on this page, there are tags put at the start and at the end of sections of text, and these tags will identify what that section is, and then the page will go away and say, I've found this section, what style do I apply to this section, and it will bring the style in from another page. It's worth pointing out that styles are actually used a tremendous amount on web pages, where styling is used a lot, not only for how things look but positioning as well. Getting back to Microsoft Word, what we have is we have the styles panel, and the styles panel is this area up here that I'm just running the cursor around for the moment. And at the moment you can see there's a normal, no space, heading 1 and heading 2. Now if I highlight the text that I want to be a heading 1 and then click on heading 1 there, you can see that it's changed. And there is heading 1, and you'll notice it's shaded it out light blue, and there's quite a lot of space above it at the moment. And what it's doing there is it's creating a space that doesn't matter what we do, we can't click into. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create another heading, and I'll call this heading 1 again for reasons that should become obvious. I'll highlight it, and again I'll apply the style. So now we've got heading 1 and heading 1. I'll go to the next paragraph, and the next paragraph I'm going to call this heading, in this case heading 2, and I'm going to apply the heading 2 style to this, and you can see that's slightly smaller and a slightly different colour. Now if you were changing the font the old way, we would do this and we'd go up to this panel to make changes, and if I do that, for instance, we take that to 16, that one's changed but that one hasn't. Let's just do an undo. What we'll do now is we'll go to the styles panel and I'll right click over heading 1 and I'll do modify, and you can see that this panel comes up, and we're going to make this automatic so it's black. I'm going to make this Times New Roman, and I'm going to make it size 12, and then I'm going to go down here into the formatting area and I'm going to pick up the paragraphing tab, and I'm going to make sure there's no spaces before, and I'm going to make sure it's on single lines, and I'm going to click OK. And you'll notice now that both of the headings have changed. I've changed it in one place, but both these styles have changed. Let's go to heading 2 and let's change the heading 2 style. Again, we'll make it automatic. We'll make it in this instance size 11. We'll pick up Times New Roman. We'll have a look at its paragraphing again, and we'll make sure there's nothing before it. We'll make sure it's a single line only, and we'll click OK. And now you'll notice that that's changed. Now if I go into here and I put in another heading 2, as long as I pick up that heading 2 and apply the style, that immediately has the style applied to it. if I now go down in here, and we're going to put in heading 3, and there's actually no heading 3 showing up there. What we need to do is we'll highlight heading 3, and then we're going to find this little arrow here, and we're going to show the styles pane, and you can see here's the styles that are shown, and I'll click heading 3 for the moment, and now it's applied heading 3, and if I do a right click over it and modify, again I'll be able to modify, make it automatic. In this case I'm going to make it size 10. I'm going to pick up Times New Roman again. I'm going to make sure I go into the formatting, take away anything before it, take away multiple line, and click OK. So now what we have in this document is we've got 3 separate headings, heading 1, heading 2 and heading 3, and you can see they're getting smaller each time we do it. Let's have a look at the paragraphs next, because if I highlight this paragraph you'll see that it's actually picking up the normal text. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the styles panel again. This time I'm going to go down to here and I'm going to create a new style, and I'm going to call it Para 1, and I'm not going to base it on any style, so I'll click select new style. I'm going to make it automatic, which is black in this instance. I'm going to make it size 12, and I'm going to make it Times New Roman. I'm going to have a look at its formatting, and in this instance I'm going to take out the multiple lines and make it single, and I'm going to take out anything after and click OK. Click OK again, and you'll notice now that that paragraph has changed into Times New Roman. Let's pick up this paragraph and let's make sure that picks up Para 1, and let's just go down to there. We've got no other Para 1s that apply to these heading 1 headers. So what we'll do now is we'll pick up this one, and again we'll create a new para. This time we'll call it Para 2. Again we'll base it on no style. We'll have it as Times New Roman, automatic. Again we'll check its formatting, and we'll make sure there's nothing after it. Make sure that it's a single line, and we'll click OK. And now you can see that that's changed. It's slightly smaller again. Just remove the styles panel, pick up that, and again we'll make that Para 2. And then finally let's pick this last one up and let's introduce a Para 3 style. So again we'll create new, we'll call it Para 3. We'll base it on no style, it'll be size 10. Again Times New Roman. Check the formatting, make sure there's nothing after it, make sure it's a single line, and then click OK. And now what we've got, if you look, is we've got 3 heading styles and 3 paragraph styles. Now it's important to say to you that as far as the university is concerned, and also for readability of documents, you should really only be having 3 types of headers. So a heading 1, which has a subheading, which is heading 2, which has a subheading itself, which will be heading 3. And then we've got 3 paragraph styles that apply to each one of those headers. And what we would do normally is we'd indent the headers and we'd indent the paragraphs so we could see the structure of the document. But before we do that, what we need to do is apply automatic numbering to our styles. And this is very straightforward. If we go up here and we have a look at the multi-level list and click the drop down arrow, and we can see here we've got heading 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we can see how they're numbered: 1, 1.1, 1.1.1. We click OK. And notice now what's happened to our document. All of our headers have now picked up their numbering. So we can see heading 1, the first heading 1 is 0.1, the second heading 1 is now 0.2. That has a subheading which was heading 2, 2.1, another one which is 2.2, and that heading there, heading 2, has a subheading itself which is 2.2.1. And you can see there we've got the cursor flashing and the 3 showing at the bottom, which in fact means we've got a style applied to that area at the moment. So I'm just going to hit the backspace and get rid of that. So we've now got a document with our headers numbered and our paragraphs. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the heading 2. So we need to go in and we'll pick up our heading 2, and I'm going to modify that heading 2, and I'm going to have a look at it, and I'll look at its paragraphing, and I'm going to indent it from the left by 0.5. I'm going to make sure it's not hanging, do none, and I'm going to click OK. And notice now that I've done that, they've indented by 0.5. You can see both of them. We'll select our heading 3s, and what we'll do with the heading 3 is we'll modify the heading 3. Again, we'll look at our paragraphing, and we'll make sure that that one comes in by 1 from the edge. Again, make sure it's not hanging, and we'll click OK. And we'll see now that that heading has indented itself. So what we now have is a set of headings that indent themselves so we can see what's going on, the order of the document. What we now need to do is look at the paragraphs. Let's look at this one, para 2. Let's pick up para 2 in our styles if we can find it. There it is. And we'll modify that. And what we'll do with that para 2 is we'll go into paragraph and we'll make sure that that matches up with the header by going 0.5 across. We'll click OK, and notice both those paragraphs are now lined up with the headings. We'll go to heading number 3. We'll pick up that paragraph and we'll modify that across, and this time we'll make sure that goes all the way over by 1. We'll click OK, and now that paragraph has matched up. So what we now have is a document that flows, and we can see the structure of that document as it goes down from the heading 1s to the subheadings to the subheadings of the subheadings. It's all very close together at the moment, and the university has styles which we use, and Times New Roman is the style for the text. But we also need to look at our paragraph spacing and our header spacing. What's important is that the paragraph underneath the heading obviously relates to its heading. This is from a readability perspective. So let's have a look at paragraph 1, and we'll modify that paragraph. And what we're going to do is going to have a look at that paragraph, and we're going to say after a paragraph finishes, we're going to need a break of 12 points. That's the first thing we want. We want it to break by 12 points. But the university also wants it to be spaced at 1.5 lines. So we'll click 1.5 and then we'll click OK. And notice straight away that paragraph has split and they've gone to 1.5. If I go in here after the word blocks and I hit return to create a new paragraph, you'll note that it's automatically spaced the paragraph for us and put in a space between the two paragraphs. Let's just do that again down here so you can see it. And there's our space between the two paragraphs. And we can see that heading 1 obviously applies to the paragraph that follows, and so does heading 2. Let's have a look at paragraph 2 down here. And again, let's do a similar thing with paragraph 2. Look at its paragraphing. We'll make sure that after it's got 12 points again, and it's on 1.5 lines, and we'll click OK. And now we can see that paragraph 2 has done the same thing, but it still lines up with its headings. And then let's have a look at paragraph 3. We'll do the same thing with paragraph 3 again. And we'll make sure it's got 12 points after it again. We'll make sure it's 1.5 lines. Click OK. OK. And there we can see that that still relates to its heading. Now if you have a look at that, the headings may seem a little bit tight to the paragraphs that run underneath them. So let's click on heading 1 for the moment. Let's go back and find it. And what we'll do is we'll have a look at heading 1. And rather than put in a spacing underneath it of 12 points, which we did for the paragraphs, we'll just put in a spacing of 6 points. And we'll leave it as a single line. And when we do that, we can see it just drops it down a little bit, but there's still a relationship between that heading and the paragraphs that follow, and there's a bigger space there between the two. Let's run down, let's have a look at heading number 2. We're on heading number 2 here, and we'll click on heading 2, we'll do modify, and again we'll go underneath, and we'll have a look at the paragraph, create 0.6, click OK, click OK, and again that's done the same with that heading. And finally we'll go to paragraph 3, we'll modify, we'll go back to paragraphing again, we'll put 0.6 underneath, we'll click OK, and we'll click OK. And that now has created a page with styles. Each paragraph follows on to the next one, the subheadings follow and indent correctly.